Hello everyone, and in this video we'll be looking at machine guns. In the game there are three types of machine guns. We have LMGs, which are light machine guns, MMGs, medium machine guns, and HMGs, heavy machine guns. All types have a portage point value, such as 2 portage points on this light machine gun. Rate of fire, which is the number situated in the square box, and this light machine gun is a 1. Some have a breakdown number, which is this B11. If there is no breakdown number, the breakdown value is 12. We have its firepower, which is the first number at the bottom in the right hand corner. In this case it's a 2 for the light machine gun. The second number is its range, which is generally underscored to show that it can do spraying fire. On the reverse side of the counter we have the malfunction side. In the top left hand corner we have R1, which is its repair value, and the bottom right hand corner we have X6, which if you roll on a repair dice roll means the machine gun is eliminated. It's unrepairable. A squad may fire one machine gun and keep its inherent firepower, or 2 machine guns, or 1 machine gun and 1 other support weapon, and lose its inherent firepower for any remaining fire phases that player turn. Any other multi-man counter may fire only 1 machine gun but lose its inherent firepower. A single man counter may fire a machine gun as area fire, and 2 single man counters may fire a machine gun at full firepower. If a single man counter is a leader, it loses leadership modifier. It's the German's prep fire phase, and he has a squad in L7 which is armed with a light machine gun. He wishes to fire at the Russian squad in J6. He's firing both the light machine gun and his squad at J6, so this is a mandatory fire group. So you have firepower of 7, with +3 to the dice for the stone building. With the same setup as the previous example, but this time the German squad possesses 2 light machine guns. The German player has a choice. He can either fire both light machine guns and lose its inherent firepower of 4 from the squad, so he has firepower of 6, or may fire just 1 machine gun and the squad for a firepower of 7. It's the American prep fire phase, and they have a single man counter who possesses a medium machine gun in S8, who wishes to fire against a Japanese squad in P7, which has war advantage. Because it's a single man counter firing the machine gun by itself, this fires as area fire, so the machine gun will fire with a strength of 2. As this is a leader, it loses inherited leadership modifier of -1, so this will take no effect on the combat dice roll. Every time a machine gun fires, it may retain its multiple rate of fire and can sometimes fire again. If the coloured die roll resolution on the infantry fire table, or the to hit die roll, should be less than or equal to the machine gun's multiple rate of fire number, the machine gun may fire again during that phase. Once a machine gun has lost its rate of fire, it is marked with the appropriate fire marker. It's a British movement phase, and the British player decides to move his squad in Q4 to P4 for 1 movement factor. At this point, the Italian player in M4 with a 347 squad, which possesses a light machine gun, decides to fire for 5 movement points. He gets -1 for first fire movement in the open, and -1 for first fire non-assault movement. He rolls a 7, coloured dice roll being a 1. This is a 1 morale check, which the British player submissively passes. The Italian squad is up marked with a first fire marker. Light machine gun is not, as it's contained its rate of fire. Now, the Italian player may fire the light machine gun again, but can't fire at the moment, as the British player only spent 1 movement factor, and during the defensive fire phase you may only fire for every movement factor spent. If the British player sometimes decides to move to 05, the light machine gun may fire again at its full strength 2. The Italian squad can also fire again, as this is the closest enemy unit, as area fire, giving it a firepower of 1.5. So again, the Italians can fire for a total of 3.5 fire points against the British squad, again -1 for non-assault movement and -1 for movement in the open. It's the French prep fire phase, and the French player decides to form a fire group with 2 squads, both possessing 2 light machine guns situated in hex CC3 and CC4, and they decide to fire against hex BB3. Now, as both squads are beside the actual German squad, this is doubled, so the 6s go to 12s, so total fire points is 24. German player receives +2 for the wooden building. French player rolls lucky and rolls a 2. This retains the light machine gun's rate of fire. German player is 1 KIA'd, so the German squad is destroyed. Both French squads are marked with prep fire markers. The French player now suddenly decides that he wishes to fire both light machine guns again as a fire group against the German squad in BB4, as they've retained their rate of fire, for a total fire points of 6, 2 for the squad light machine gun in hex CC3 and 4 for the light machine gun in CC4. If a medium machine gun or heavy machine gun that fires and is in a woods, rubble or building location and may fire again during that phase, it must fire in the covered arc of the previous shot. If the previous shot should be up or down in a stairwell, its next shots must be also up and down in the stairwell. It may still fire in any direction in its own location. Mark the machine gun with a covered arc counter to remind you of its covered arc, pointing to the centre hex spine of the covered arc. Remove the covered arc counter at the end of the phase, except for a machine gun with restricted covered arc whose possessing unit is pinned during the prep fire phase or movement phase. Retains that fixed covered arc until the end of the defensive fire phase. It's the American player's movement phase. They have a squad in Q7, another one down here in N7. There's a German squad with a medium machine gun in O3. The American squad in Q7 decides to move to Q6. 1 movement factor. At this point, the German squad decides to fire with the squad and the medium machine gun at the moving unit for a total of 10 fire points. Once it's fired, it retains its rate of fire. Now, because it's in a wood hex, it can only fire again in its covered arc. The covered arc in this case will run down through 04, 05, 06, 07, P3, Q4, R4, S5. There's a covered arc runs straight down this hex spine here. Some see if the Americans then decide to move the squad over here in N7 to N6, the medium machine gun can't fire even though it's retained its rate of fire as it's outside of its covered arc. During the American movement phase, the Americans just moved their squad into 07. German player has decided to fire the medium machine gun at it. Now, as it's straight down, we now have a choice of covered arcs, or marking our covered arc. We can either point the covered arc so we cover 04, 05, 06 down to 07 and P3, Q4, R4, S5, T5, or we could have it so we have our covered arc running from 04, 05, 06, 07 and N3, M4, L4, K5, J5. This is at the player's choice. During a defensive fire attack, when a machine gun is manned by a unpinned infantry unit, firing at normal range, not triple point blank fire, and not already marked with a first fire or final fire marker, and the target is at the same level, the defender may declare a fire lane. Place a first fire counter on the machine gun and resolve the attack in the normal way. If the machine gun should malfunction or the manning unit should cower, then no fire lane occurs. Place a fire lane marker in one hex of the hex grain, which must include the machine gun and the hex of the defensive fire target, with the arrow pointing back to the machine gun hex. A fire lane may be placed along an alternative hex grain. The defensive player must declare if the hexes on the left or right are affected by the fire lane, which must include the hex of the defensive fire target and the hex of the machine gun. If more than one machine gun was used in the defensive fire attack, then each machine gun must have its own fire lane. The fire lanes may cover the same hexes. It's the Russian movement phase, and he's just moved his squad from J1 to J2, spending 2 movement factors. The German player has a squad and a light machine gun down here in 05 and declares a defensive fire attack. He also declares a fire lane. Because the range of the machine gun is 8 and we're 5 hexes away, this is perfectly allowed. We resolve the normal attack first of all and mark the light machine gun with a first fire marker. In this case, the German player misses. We now must place the fire lane marker, which we can place anywhere along this hex grain, as long as the actual hex we're attacking is within it and the machine gun is also within the hex grain we're firing along. It's normal to actually place the fire lane marker at the furthest point of the range of the machine gun or line of sight, whichever is the lowest. As we can't see past the woods in J2, we can place it here in J2, making sure the arrow points back towards the machine gun. It's Russian movement phase again. Just move your squad from J1 into the woods in J2. German squad and light machine gun in L4 wishes to fire defensive fire against the Russian squad. German player also wishes to lay down a fire lane and declares that fact. Now, because the actual firing is not on a straight hex grain, such as from 05 to J2, we must lay the fire lane in an alternative hex method. Again, we resolve the normal attack first of all and mark light machine gun with the first fire marker. Again, German player misses. We must now decide how we're going to lay our fire lane. We must make sure that the Russian squad is in the fire lane hex affected and the machine gun is. There's only one way we can do this, is lay the fire lane so it goes up this hex side edge here into K3 and between K2 and J2, and declare that hexes to the left will be affected. So in other words, hex K4, K3, J2. We need to mark our fire lane in a full hex pointing back towards the machine gun. The only place we can place it is in K3. So the hexes affected in this fire lane alternative hexes will be K4, K3 and J2. The strength of fire lane is the fire point column to the left of the fire point column which is normally used by the machine gun on the infantry fire table. So in the case of this French medium machine gun, which has a strength of 4, it would place a fire lane with a strength of 2. The reason being its normal fire point is 4, and we take the first column to the left, which is a fire point strength of 2. So some see that machine gun places a fire point strength of 2. Fire lane residue fire points are never reduced by dice roll modifiers. No crew exhausted, hero or leader modified dice roll modifier is applied to a fire lane attack. When a fire lane is placed because of attack on a unit using any form of impulse movement, that fire lane attacks all other units of that impulse currently in any location where that fire lane now exists. It's the British movement phase, and the British player has 2 4-5-7 squads in S2. The Italian player has a 3-4-7 squad with medium machine gun down in S5. British player decides to move first squad into the building S3. At this point, the Italian player decides to fire defensive fire, and also declares he wishes to lay a fire lane with a medium machine gun against a moving unit. There is no effect from the actual combat dice roll. Now normally we would leave residual firepower from the 3-4-7, which would be 1.5, which takes us into the 1 column. But because of the grain hex in S4, this reduces it by an extra 1, so some says no residual firepower left by the squad. Medium machine gun on the other hand with its fire lane has a fire lane strength of 2. The grain hex in S4 does not affect this. We still lay a fire lane of 2. When we actually resolve a firepower attack with a fire lane, we then take into consideration the grain in S4, as we know the actual machine gun being used, so there's no changes to the actual residual firepower from any hindrances or any other dice roll modifiers in the meantime. So if we then decide to move the other 4-5-7 squad into the same hex, it will be attacked by 2 with +1 added to the dice for the hindrance, +3 for the stone building, for a total of +4. Fire lane residual fire points cannot be used to increase residual fire points from another source. If more than one fire lane or residual fire points affects the same location, the residual fire points is handled first, then the fire lanes, with the defender deciding in which order they will be resolved. Fire lanes can never cower. In hex T3 we have a 2 5-point residual fire marker and 2 fire lanes, one with a strength of 2, one with a strength of 1. If we had a unit in T2 and then moved into T3, first of all we must resolve the 2 5-point residual firepower. After that, it's up to the defender which of the 2 fire lanes he wishes to use first. A fire lane is removed if machine guns, melee and infantry should break, be pinned or eliminated, or at the end of the current movement phase. Every time the fire lane attacks, the machine gun may malfunction if the attack dice roll is equal to or greater than that machine gun's malfunction factor. If the machine gun should malfunction, the fire lane is removed. The defending player may remove a fire lane to regain control of the machine gun. A machine gun that attacks using subsequent first fire or final protective fire is classified as using sustained fire, and its breakdown number is reduced by 2. Sustained fire may not be used by vehicle machine guns unless they are the main element, ordnance, or a machine gun manned by a single man counter. Mark the machine gun with a final fire marker. Irrespective of the range of a machine gun, it may not fire at targets at over 16 hexes unless the fire is directed by a leader. Any infantry targets fired at over 16 hexes are always classified as concealed, unless they are berserk, broken, or overstacked. Coaxial machine guns and infantry fire equivalents are not affected by this rule. Machine guns, not vehicle machine guns except for the main armament, may use spray and fire against 2 target locations in its line of sight that share a common hex side. Spray and fire may not be used in the machine gun's own location. Any terrain effect modifiers and line of sight hindrances apply individually to each attack, but both use the same original infantry fire table resolution dice roll. Spray and fire is always area fire. It's the French prep fire phase, and they have a squad in Q7 with a medium machine gun. There are 2 Japanese squads, one in R8 and the other one in S8. In this case, the French player could claim spray and fire, as R8 and S8 have a common hex side. The attack in this case would be +1 to the R8 hex and +2 to the S8 hex for the wooden building. As spray and fire is area fire, each hex will be attacked with 2 fire points. So 2 fire points +1 in R8, 2 fire points +2 in S8. We use a single dice roll to resolve both attacks. If after declaration of spray and fire, one of the targets is found not to be in line of sight, that target is not affected by spray and fire. The other target is still attacked by spray and fire in the usual way. Target locations can be vertically in buildings, as long as the targets are within 1 level of each other and in the same hex. So the American squad in T6 with a heavy machine gun can fire against the 2 German squads at spray and fire in R5, as they're both in the same hex within 1 level of each other, one being on the ground level and one being on the first level. Line of sight for spray and fire can be traced to points other than the hex centre dot when firing at units in bypass or using road movement rate in non-open ground hexes. You can declare spray and fire against an unoccupied location so that you may leave residual firepower, as long as the other target location is occupied. It's the American movement phase. The Americans have a squad in T3, another one over in V3, and there's a German squad with a medium machine gun in U6. American players decide to move his squad from T3 into T4 with 2 movement factors. At this point, the German decides to fire and declares he's going to use spray and fire. The other hex he declares is U4. He does this just in case the squad in V3 should try to move into U4 into T4 afterwards. This will actually leave 1 residual fire point in U4. German machine gun, of course, area fire will be 2.5, which drops down to 2, and we have again for the residual fire points. which just leaves us 1. You cannot use spraying fire in a fire group unless all members of the fire group can use spraying fire and all declare they are using spraying fire against the same 2 targets. A unit already marked with a first fire counter, which attacks during final fire, may use spraying fire against targets in adjacent locations to the firer. You may not use spraying fire against sending paratroopers. I will be covering the use of machine guns against vehicles in a future video. Thank you for watching. If you found this video useful, please leave a like as it helps the channel. Bye for now.